Shame on us, both Democrats and Republicans, for not doing what's right in this chamber and doing what is right for the American people and making sure we're not separating families. With that, Mr. Chair, I yield.
Chair recognizes Mr. Palmer from Alabama.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to point out that under Article 6 of the Constitution, the Supremacy Clause, that by declaring your states sanctuary states, you declared your intent to violate federal law. With that, are you aware that illegal aliens with known ties to terrorist organizations are now residing in the United States? That's a yes or no. Quickly, yes or no. Governor Waltz.
I don't have firsthand knowledge, but I would assume
you should
yes.
have. Governor Pritzker.
I know that's been alleged. I don't have firsthand knowledge myself.
You should have. Governor Hochul.
My Joint Terrorism Task Force has surveillance.
Ma'am, that's a yes or no. Either you know or you don't.
We are aware.
That's amazing, considering that the Customs Border Patrol reported just in fiscal year 23, 736 encounters with illegal aliens with ties to terrorist organizations. And there's it's 2.2 million estimated gotaways. We have no idea how many known terrorists are in our country. Do you support the arrest and deportation of illegal aliens with ties to terrorist organizations? So yes or no? Governor Waltz.
If due process is given, certainly.
Governor Pritzker.
Exactly. We need
Governor
due
Hochul.
process before we
Hochul.
arrest people.
Yes or no?
Anyone involved in a crime, we
Ma'am,
cooperate.
yes or no?
We cooperate when any
Ma'am, yes
crimes
or
are-
no?
We cooperate
You
with any
cannot
crimes.
give a straight answer, and the answer is you're giving safe harbor to people with ties to terrorist organizations. Are you aware of that? Let me tell you. You're shielding members of known terrorist organizations such as MS-13, Trinidad Aragua, Brown Pride Azteca, Barrios Azteca, Serenos, which is otherwise known as Sur 13, and the 18th Street Gang. Those are designated terrorist organizations. Many of these are the people responsible for bringing fentanyl in that's killed, along with other drugs, killed over 100,000 people per year. We're no longer in a war on drugs. We're involved in a war with drugs. These are casualties. Are you aware that the Department of Homeland Security identified over 400 illegal aliens who were smuggled into the United States with the help of an affiliate of ISIS? Are you aware of that, Governor Waltz?
Congressman, I don't have direct knowledge of that.
Well, I'll help you. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to enter to the record article from NBC News. DHS identifies over 400 migrants brought in the United States by an IS-affiliated human smuggling network. Is that a problem?
Without objection, so ordered.
Does that raise any concern for you?
None of us want terrorists in this country.
Then why are you shielding people here from being picked up by our ICE agents, referring to this as a Gestapo organization? You know, I never want to get up on another morning like I did on September 11th, 2001. There are people in this country who are here with the full intent to do us harm. They came across our borders illegally. 358 of them crossed the northern border into New York. Not all of them into New York, but some of them came through New York. There's arms smuggling across the Canadian border into New York. And you're shielding these people. Are you aware that if just 0.5% of the estimated 15 million, 14.7 million to be exact, that came into our country illegally during the Biden administration, if just 0.5% are tied to criminal organizations or terrorist organizations, that constitutes more than the combined active duty forces of the Army and Marines? Does that not strike you as something that should be of great concern to us?
Since you raised New York, I'd like to answer.
Are you aware?
We cooperate fully with all investigations, particularly terrorists. I mean, you cannot say 9/11 and not invoke incredible emotion
How do you know,
from
Governor
us.
Hochul, that they're terrorists if you don't allow people to be picked up who came here illegally to at least give an account for their presence?
We say they
how
should
do you
be vetted
know
at the
if they're
border.
not part of that 400 that we know came in through an ISIS-affiliated human smuggling operation. You don't know. You're not even looking into that.
You're pointing to an abject failure of the federal government to do its job to secure our borders.
What I'm pointing out here is that your sanctuary policies now constitute a threat to our national security.
We cooperate in all criminal investigations.
You are engaged
always
in
have, always
operations
will.
against federal government attempts to enforce federal law that I think now constitutes a threat to our national security, and you're in violation of federal law.
That's 100% false.
And charges for obstruction should be brought against each one of you for doing this. I'll leave that up to the Department of Justice. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Chair now recognizes Ms. Crockett from Texas.
Mr. Chairman.
And Mr. Chair,
point of order.
That was intimidation of the witness.
Do you have a point of inquiry?
Yes, I have a point of inquiry.
State your point.
Raising the prospect of charges against witnesses is a form of intimidation, is it not? Thank you. Thank you, and I withdraw the question. I appreciate it.
Chair recognizes Ms. Crockett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you so much to our governors. And I want to say I apologize. I apologize for the abuse that you are facing in this committee that is supposed to be about waste, fraud, and abuse. And I also apologize for wasting your time, because this is nothing more than political theater. Now, again, this committee is supposed to be about waste, fraud, and abuse. We did not have to have this faux creation of Doge. The committee itself, that is our job. So what I want to talk about is something that the American people may want to know, which is economically, how is this impacting them? These failed immigration policies that are only put on so that they can have a show, because we have a reality show president who seemingly still believes that this is all about TV instead of real lives. So let me talk about something really quickly, because I want to clarify something, because I believe that all of you understand the importance of something like tourism. Are you aware, any of you, are you aware as to whether or not tourism in the United States is anticipated to decrease to the extent that we are estimated to lose $12.5 billion in international vendor spending in just the year 2025?
I can answer as the tourism capital of the country.
I assume you could.
Tourism's already down. It is down in the North Country, where the Canadians refuse to come over because of the hostility toward their country. It's happening in New York City. It's happening at our sporting events here, our theater. There's a ripple effect throughout our entire economy because of the change in attitude that our country, that once welcomed people from all over the world to visit and recreate and to live here, now feels like a very hostile place to them. It is going to have an economic impact on our bottom line, without a doubt.
So let's talk about it a little bit more. So I am supposed to have a number of FIFA games in Dallas, and I am fully anticipating that we are going to have a problem, because I've been receiving phone calls that people don't feel safe coming here. And it's not the immigrants. It's this government that is making them feel unsafe. But let me also do this, because they love to cherry pick. They can find, any one person that has been killed. And if they've been killed by an immigrant, then God darn it, every single immigrant is going out and they are killers. And that is the problem. But they don't want to talk about white supremacy. I don't know how many hearings we going to have about the fact that there's been this one immigrant that killed this one person. And no, I'm not excusing any killings by them or white supremacists. But they haven't had these hearings. We didn't have a hearing on Buffalo and what happened there. We didn't have a hearing on El Paso and what happened there. We didn't have a hearing on Charleston and what happened there. So it's interesting that they pick and choose, because it seems like they love to pal around with the white supremacists, and so they don't want to talk about certain other things. But economically, I want to make sure that we're making this point again, because I know that Governor Pritzker, you are the beneficiary of a lot of things from the state of Texas. And a lot of people believe that Republicans are fiscally responsible, but instead they are actually fiscally irresponsible, because what he spent was a whopping $221 million transporting people from Texas to your state. Something tells me that he could have done something else with that $221 million. In addition to that, I know that there's been some conversations about what's going on in LA, and they want to say that it's riots because they didn't want people to keep talking about, say, the Epstein files or whatever other drama was popping off between the president and his little friend. So they wanted to change the conversation to immigration because they feel like, well, the polling is in our benefit. But let me tell you something. If they cared about making sure we were going to be fiscally responsible, they would tell the American people that it cost them $134 million to send the National Guard to LA for the quote-unquote riots that the governor didn't ask for, nor did the mayor of LA ask for, and they sent them over there, and they say that they care about our service members, yet they sent them and they were laying on the floor. They did not provide for food. So I don't know why we would believe that, number one, they want to fix this. They don't want to fix this, because the brokenness is a feature, not a flaw of the system, because it is beneficial to them when it comes to campaigning. If they can't stoke fear, then why are they going to say have anybody vote for them? Because that's what people are doing. They're voting out of fear. But Ms. Perryman, we know each other a little well. And I know you got a law degree. And it seems like we all need law degrees in here nowadays to understand the Constitution. So really briefly, I just want to make this point. There is a certain person that was afforded, say, due process. But let's say if Donald Trump had been charged with all of these cases that he got charged with in 4 different jurisdictions, if he wasn't afforded due process, there could have been a possibility that he just would have been locked up and thrown somewhere, right?
That would be a possibility.
And then maybe we wouldn't have a tariff war or anything else that we're dealing with or all the other nonsense. But the point is, he was afforded due process, and regardless of the political opposition, Democrats, Republicans, and independents, I thought, believe that due process should be afforded to everybody, even him.
Due process is for everyone.
Okay, so the Fifth Amendment doesn't say that it's just for the people that are Americans?
It does not.
It says anybody on our soil?
It's for everyone.
Okay, it's pretty simple. I don't know why we are having issues, but I thank you and I will yield.
Chair recognizes Dr. Gosar from Arizona. Oh, before I recognize Dr. Gosar, Mr. Palmer has a unanimous consent request.
To enter to the record testimony before the subcommittee of Oversight and Government Reform, subcommittee on federal law enforcement, from Joseph M. Humeyer, who is.
Without objection to order.
Mr. Chair, I have unanimous consent.
Okay, Ms. Tlaib.
Can I please issue into to the record a statement from Senators Chang, Kavanaugh, and Santana and Bayer in response to the ICE detention and deportation of Mikel Bogoya Duranto?
Without objection to order. Now, Chair
Mr.
recognizes
Chair.
Dr. Gosar from Arizona.
Governors, good afternoon. Would you agree that good process builds good policy, builds good politics? Pretty normal, right? Would you agree, Governor Pritzker?
Yes, sir.
How about you, Governor?
I would agree,
Also,
Congressman.
Governor Hochul?
I would agree with that.
Good. Now, would you support the disclosure of federal fundings to nonprofits, either directly or indirectly? Governor Pritzker?
Federal funding of nonprofits, just generally, there is actually nonprofits do report their.
Well, they do kind of, because we don't get that. That's all blocked out, okay? But you can't make good decisions if you don't have that. Would you agree?
All of it is available, as I
Okay.
understand, publicly, yes.
Now I'm going to quote U.S. Supreme Court Associate Justice Louis Brandeis. He said, "In a government of laws, existence of the government will be imperiled if it fails to observe and uphold the law scrupulously. Our government is potent, the omnipresent teacher. For good or for ill, it teaches the whole people by its example. If the government becomes a lawbreaker, it invites contempt for the law. It invites every man to become a law unto himself. It invites anarchy." So do you agree with, Governor Pritzker, do you agree with Louis Brandeis on this quote? How about you, Dr. Waltz?
I do. It's what the President Trump has done, though. He is the one who has broken the law, and the United States government.
Governor Hochul.
We follow all the laws, federal and state.
Okay, so why would I ask you about nonprofits financing and this quote from Louis Brandeis? What if I were to present you evidence that U.S. citizens and even foreign citizens on foreign soil were coaching illegal aliens how to bypass U.S. immigration law? Now let me remind you, as soon as an alien crosses the border illegally, they become criminals under the federal law. Governors or sanctuary policies blatantly ignore the supremacy clause, as Mr. Palmer expressed, of the U.S. Constitution, and it circumvents federal immigration laws to harbor criminals. As of July 2024, under the Biden-Harris administration, there were over 660,000 illegal aliens with criminal histories in the United States. But I'm talking about everyone, not just these criminals. Once you violate the law by entering our country illegally, let me be clear. You're aiding and abetting criminal illegal aliens, which is a felony under Title 8 U.S. Code 1324, punishable up to 20 years in prison or life in prison or even the death penalty. Seems kind of weird, but if this aiding and abetting results in someone's death, which this committee and all Americans know has happened. Wouldn't you want to even err on the aspect of caution? I would. I really would. Now, Governor Hochul, do you like nature, and do you consider yourself a conservationist? I do. I'm one of those.
I'm particularly fond of New York State's great state parks, so yes, of course I love nature.
Good. So why would you allow illegal aliens to destroy a National Park Service land at Floyd Bennett Field? Yes, I was there. I got to see it all. But, I mean, even putting people in that process.
I
I
would hardly call it a park. It was a place that people used to train for military exercises.
But you know what? Somebody found it as a park, right? Did they not? They considered it a national park. It's a park. Okay.
Technically, it's under the Department of Interior.
Okay. Governor Waltz, do you know the estimated size of a milligram, of 2 milligrams?
I think generally, yeah.
You can barely see it's the tip of a pencil, sharpened pencil at that. And that's a lethal dose of fentanyl, which your running mate, Harris' open border policies welcome to the United States. Similarly, your sanctuary policies are playing games with American lives. Do the millions of lives lost to fentanyl constitute an all-out assault on our broken borders? They do. Yes or no? Do you support tribal communities, Governor Waltz?
Do I support tribal communities?
Yeah.
Under PL 280 or?
Oh, do you support?
Yeah, I certainly
tribal?
do.
No. Okay, I do. Yeah. Okay. What about the transnational criminal cartels trafficking drugs and people across our tribal lands? This is epidemic. Epidemic. So I'm going to finish up by this. Governors, this is my promise to you. I will work tirelessly with President Trump to secure the border, build the wall, stop the flow of fatal fentanyl into our nation, and I will see that you are held accountable for the violations of our crimes against the people of the United States. Our immigration system is not broken. We just needed somebody like Donald Trump to uphold the rules of law. I pray for the safety of our immigration, ICE officers, and all the officers, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Ms. Crockett has a unanimous consent request.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I'd like to submit a unanimous consent request for, this is from the Alabama Reflector. It says, study says undocumented immigrants paid almost $100 billion in taxes.
Without objection, so ordered.
And my second one is from Reuters. White supremacists behind over 80% of extremism-related U.S. murders in 2022.
Without objection, so ordered. Now I recognize Mr. Lynch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also have a couple of unanimous consent requests. The first is from Law and Crime magazine. Judge rebukes Department of Justice explanation for ignoring the court order.
Without objection, so ordered.
Subhead is the government again evaded its obligations. The judge upbraids the Trump administration's woefully and insufficient explanation for flouting his court order. The second one is from NBC News. Trump administration's threat to suspend core U.S. legal right sparks outcry and alarm.
Without objection, so ordered. Chair now recognizes Ms. Presley from Massachusetts.
Thank you to our Democratic governors for being here today. This hearing is an utter and complete waste of your time. It is a waste of taxpayer dollars. Republicans have called you here alleging that you are circumventing federal law. You are not. But you know who is the poster child, who is violating federal law daily? The current occupant of the Oval Office, Donald J. Trump. To make matters worse, these hardworking governors had to leave their states to be here in a moment when their work is incredibly difficult. Because Donald J. Trump and his accomplices and co-conspirators, who, by the way, Donald Trump doesn't give a damn about your constituents, and he doesn't give a damn about you. He doesn't even respect the seat you hold in Congress as a co-equal branch of government. But Donald Trump and his accomplices, many of whom are in this room, are hell-bent what you want your legacy to be is that you're tearing food away from our babies and medical care from our elders. These Democratic governors have to stand in the gap and figure out how to stretch budgets and modify programs to keep their constituents fed and alive. Constituents like this precious little soul that I wish I didn't have to leave to come be here. Layla, who drew me this rainbow, a 5-year-old who lives with a rare liver disease, had a successful liver transplant at Boston Medical Center. Thank God. She is thriving today. But Layla will need immunosuppressant drugs for the rest of her life that are paid for by Medicaid. And without Medicaid, well, I shudder to think what might happen to Layla. But for sure, a family will at least go bankrupt trying to do everything to keep their baby alive. That's what these governors, that's the situation that they've been put in because you're a big-ass, ugly bill, and if it comes to pass. And they're dealing with the fallout of this White House pulling federal grants recklessly. Grown men throwing temper tantrums. So again, let me be plain. The Trump administration is breaking the law, not these Democratic governors. Ms. Perryman, how many legal challenges is the Trump administration currently facing?
I believe there's over 300 right now.
And Ms. Perryman, can you explain how litigation like this has helped to shield and defend vulnerable communities?
Absolutely. Without our courts upholding the rule of law and upholding the rights of people, right now there could be federal funds frozen across the country that would endanger things like Head Start and Meals on Wheels and community safety programs, including community safety programs that help prosecutors and help law enforcement in states and communities across the country. The administration has terminated over $800 million in Office of Justice program grants that we are having to challenge in court, and the list goes on and on and on.
Thank you, Ms. Perryman. Thank you for your good work. That's right, in case after case, the media might not want you to know, but we are winning. Trump tried to end birthright citizenship, blocked. He tried to shut down asylum, blocked. He tried to defund cities, blocked. And because we are winning in court, Republicans are trying to change the rules to rig the system. Tucked in the big ugly bill the Republicans voted for is a provision, Section 70302, titled Restriction on Enforcement, that would restrict the judiciary from enforcing court orders and holding government officials accountable. This is an intentional and deliberate attempt to undermine the court so that the Trump administration can break the law with impunity. Republicans, Ms. Perryman, pretend to care about law and order, but this provision is the exact opposite. What message does this send to people who count on the courts to protect their rights?
It suggests that the people that voted for the bill don't want the American people protected and that they don't want them to access their courts and access the ability to protect their rights.
Don't want the American people protected, that part. Allegedly all in the name of law and order and safety. This is about nothing but power and control and abuse of power and terror, which makes everyone less safe. The shame and the sham of it all. I yield back.
Chair recognizes Mr. Grofman from Wisconsin.
Thank you. Glad to see we have 3 governors here. I hear a lot about Illinois being from Wisconsin. I just had some builders in my office yesterday talking about all the Illinois people building houses in southern Wisconsin to get out of Illinois. In any event, I think we have a very generous country here right now. Every year, about 850,000 new citizens are, another 8 million new citizens are sworn in, naturalized in this country. I think we have about another 500,000 people coming in this country on work visas, and a little under that coming in on student visas. So we're very generous about allowing people in this country. I should have said 850,000 new people sworn in. In any event, it's not impossible to get here legally. Nevertheless, we have a lot of people every year overstaying visas or still sneaking across the border. And the question I'm going to ask you guys and gal is, do you believe we should have immigration laws in this country? We'll start, I guess we'll go right down the line. Governor Waltz.
Congressman, the question is, should we have immigration laws?
Yes, that's it.
Yes, we should.
Governor Pritzker.
They're very important. In fact, we should have more robust immigration in this country, and it should be done under a law.
And Ms. Hochul?
Yes, of course, we should have immigration laws.
Okay.
In fact, we do.
The question is, when people come in this country and break those laws, do you believe they should be enforced? Let's say people come in this country, you know, Gulf of Mexico, Pacific Ocean, however they come here. Should they be spun around and sent back out of the country, or should we just allow them to stay here?
It depends if they're, Congressman, if they're coming on an asylum claim, protected status.
Exact question. Assuming they come on an asylum claim and that claim has been rejected, should they be allowed to stay here?
The judge denies their asylum claim? No, they should not. They should not be able to.
Governor Pritzker, if somebody's overstaying, we'll say a different way, overstaying their say work visas, a student visa, should they be allowed to stay here or should they be removed?
Given due process, sir.
Should they be removed?
Due process is required, yes.
Okay, Governor Hochul.
Yes, agree. Following due process, the federal government has the authority to make those removals. It has nothing to do with.
I'll ask you: should people who are here illegally get welfare benefits, Mr. Governor Waltz? By that, food stamps, low-income housing.
Should they get assistance that would be here?
Yes.
We provide for all of our people in Minnesota. It's one of the reasons.
Okay, so your statement is that if somebody comes here, say on an asylum claim, whatever, they should be able to get low-income housing benefits, almost free rent, free food, free health care. That's what you believe?
I believe states' rights. In some states, they do.
Well, I know that's what you believe we should do. Okay, Mr. Governor Pritzker.
It's the federal government's job to determine what welfare benefits at the federal level, and I can say to you that we have hundreds of thousands of people in the state of Illinois who are undocumented but have been living, abiding by the law, holding down a job, paying taxes.
Okay, so are they
getting?
Are they? Do you believe it's right then that if they come here, they should get free housing, free medical care, free food?
It depends on the circumstances. I'm just explaining to you, though, that we have millions of people across the United States who are here, and we're here long before you got elected.
I know all that. I mean, the question is, you don't have a problem with them getting benefits, these benefits.
Again, law-abiding, tax-paying. We're talking about people who are adding to
okay,
our
I'll take it to
society.
be, well, not if they're not working. But either way, you have no problem giving them those benefits?
We provide benefits to people all across.
Okay, Ms. Hochul, is that the same thing with you? Do you believe people come here who are not citizens, come here, make a asylum claim, they should all be getting food, health care, housing?
Depending on which law you're referring to, in certain circumstances, we do provide these services, but they're not universal.
Okay, well, to most people, your average person who's overstaying a student visa in New York, do you think they should be getting food stamps, housing, medical care?
We provide Medicaid for individuals who are senior citizens or moms with new babies.
Well, we know when people are eligible. The question is people who are not citizens who are overstaying a student or work visa. Are they eligible?
People are making their own way here in the state of New York. In fact, I have 400,000 open jobs. I wish you could.
You're
help
not
find a
answering the
path-
question.
find a
I
path
take it to
get-
mean. I'm just
Give
by a
us more
second,
work
because I want you to answer
authorizations.
the
Let's
question.
put them to work. Let's put them to work.
But you refuse to answer the question. If somebody is otherwise eligible for low-income housing or food stamps or medical care in New York, do you believe they should be entitled to those benefits?
There's
as
not a
Americans?
blanket answer to that. It depends on which provision of the social services law. In some cases, it's allowed. In some cases, it's not.
Okay. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Ms. Simon from Arizona.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I would hope that I am also able to go over my time.
I'm sorry, California.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I, as my colleague did, I hope I am allowed to also go over my time by approximately 45 seconds.
Well, I've been very fair. You've had Mr. Frost went over a minute and a half.
Okay, I'm just asking. Thank you. I appreciate that, sir. I just want to
I didn't say you could, but you can go ahead.
I just want to make sure that I have a fair opportunity to also speak as an individual of this body. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Ranking Member Lynch. I am so honored to be here today and having this really important conversation. You know, we talked about victim advocacy in this place. Actually, I was a victim advocate. I was a 8133 in San Francisco for many years and had to sit with families who buried their folks, and sitting, literally figuring out how to mend together obituaries. I've worked with young people who have been victims of gun violence and literally have had to scrub blood off the streets. There is nothing that anyone can say to a family, I get it, that is grieving. We have a lot of work to do, not just here in this country, around the world, to deter violence. I come from a state, the fourth largest economy in the world, with the best public education, higher public education system in this country. In fact, at California, Berkeley, we lead some of the research that are keeping folks here and your relatives alive. Those labs and that research is being attacked by this administration, but I digress. I have a number of questions today, but this hearing has been so difficult. Not only was I a victim advocate for many years, working with folks who had witnessed and who had been victimized by rape, by murder. I also led the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights of the San Francisco Bay Area that was founded by JFK, and our asylum clinic honored the work of this country by supporting folks who came here escaping tyranny and violence to just be met by an immigration system day after day that spat in their face. I'm thankful to both members of the private bar and our community lawyers who are doing their American duty by supporting people who are leaving tyranny. I have actually one question. I'm concerned that we're deflating the conversation around public safety. It's my understanding that the current administration, and this question goes to you, Ms. Perriman, has deducted or stopped payments of upwards of $1 billion in local public safety funding around the country. With my time remaining, can you talk to us a little bit about this very hypocritical moment in time where we're uplifting public safety and yet we're taking resources away from communities, police departments, community safety leaders, and organizations that are taking guns out of kids' hands? Give us a little bit of the flavor. Talk about what money has been taken away from communities under this administration.
Yes. Since January, the administration has abruptly terminated a range of funding and grants for community programs across the country, including grants under the Office of Justice Programs, which was obviously a law that President Reagan signed. And there's been over 800 million grants and funding that have been abruptly terminated that we are having to litigate right now. They have also cut off funding for programs that help lawyers and law enforcement become trained in what they're doing in communities across the country to keep people safe. And then I know that one of the colleagues mentioned terrorism, and as part of the administration's broader funding freeze, federal funding freeze that we had to block in the first weeks of this administration and that remains blocked by a federal court, officials from states like Arizona and Oregon swore out declarations in court talking about the risk to counterterrorism funding that they were concerned about with respect to this administration's federal funding freeze. Those are just some examples. Our team is literally in court every single day.
Ms. Perriman, so would you say, is it of your knowledge that police chiefs, their grants have been frozen?
Yes, many people in community safety programs.
And so taking away literally upwards of $1 billion in local public safety funding from around the country, including violence prevention and gun safety programs, would you say this administration is making us more safe or less safe?
Less safe.
Any members, any other governors? Do you have any? I have a few seconds.
We have programs that we work with the federal government between cities, law enforcement, and federal government law enforcement that are being torn apart. And, drug task forces, our gang task forces, gun task forces, this is making us less safe.
grants for rape kits and rape investigations, the disembowelment of the Department of Education, including the Office of Civil Rights that investigated rape and sexual assault on college campuses, decimated. I would agree that our administration is making us less safe. Thank you, and I yield back. Thank you, Chairman, for the extra time.
Chair recognizes Mr. Perry from Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sad to say I'm disappointed today, but, governors, Ms. Perryman, welcome to the House of Representatives. Great to have you here and hear about your thoughts and views on things. Governor Pritzker, you said, I think numerous times now, that the president broke the law. You're an attorney, right? Northwestern? Is that where you went to law school?
Congressman, yes, sir.
So just, can you cite which law in this regard he's broken?
Well, there have been congressionally approved appropriations that this president has cut off, and we've had to go to court. That's illegal. We've had to go to court to have it reinstated.
It's illegal.
It is
illegal. If you have to go to court, it's illegal, and it's still working its way through the courts, right?
Yes, but things have been ruled on already.
It's not illegal yet. It's your opinion. But regarding
when a judge rules on it, that's the law. Okay.
It's the law at that moment until the next judge rules on it. Okay. Right? Because you understand the court system. You're the attorney here. I'm not. But you're not saying he broke the law regarding the riots in Los Angeles right now, or are you saying that?
That hasn't been ruled upon yet. So,
but are you saying
the
he
answer
broke the law in
is
that
I believe
regard
that he
or not?
did, but that is not what I'm referring to.
Okay, you're not referring.
No,
to
I
that.
just
okay.
told you
All right.
there are
I just want to be clear about
congressional
that.
appropriations
Because the
that have been
implication,
cut off.
because of what this hearing is about, is that you're saying that he broke the law regarding the mobilization in Los Angeles, and you're not saying that. I want to make that clear. You're not saying that.
What he is doing is overstepping his authority, and we are going to court.
Oh, okay. So so let me ask you a couple
up.
questions, because I want to go through a little walk down memory lane here in history for you. In 1794, George Washington mobilized the military. You familiar with the Whiskey Rebellion?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so was Washington beyond his scope? Did he overstep?
What about inciting riots on January 6th at the Capitol, right in this building?
Sir,
well, you're asking.
I'm asking, you're saying he's breaking the law.
Yes.
Ms. Hochul,
he has broken
Governor
the law.
Hochul, you're also an attorney. How about Abraham Lincoln, 1862? Did he do it?
The abuse of power is an overreach into the responsibility
How about
of
Dwight
state
Eisenhower? Did he do it when he mobilized?
in situations where
John
you're
Kennedy.
overruling.
John Kennedy.
You seriously don't want an
Twice.
answer from me.
John
I won't
F.
even
Kennedy.
bother.
How about Lyndon Johnson, 1965 and 67, and 68? Is that you're saying that's against the law? What the president is now doing? Are you guys? You're the attorneys here, and I'm not talking to Governor Waltz here because he's not an attorney. He called himself a knucklehead, so I'm leaving him out of this right now. Are you guys familiar with sections 251 through 255 of Title 10 of the U.S. Code?
The conditions under which a president may usurp the authority of a governor in activating the National Guard is under an invasion or an insurrection. I would argue that neither one of those.
Governor
standards have
Hochul,
been met.
I would refer you to Section 253. I'm not going to bore everybody with reading it for you, but you're wrong. And to accuse the president, quite honestly, that's the least that you've accused him of. You've also, in this room, he's been accused of being a dictator, maybe not by you. And if you're willing to say he's not one, we'd love to hear it. But also that the law enforcement agents are Nazis with Gestapo-like tactics. Governor Waltz, you mentioned that in a commencement speech. Now, let me ask you, I'm going to ask each three of you this. 8 CFR 287.7. It arises from the Secretary's power under Section 103A3 of the Immigration and Nationality Act, the INA. So do Sections 236, 241, 287. Are those things laws that should be followed and enforced? Are you okay with those things being laws and enforced or not?
Federal immigration laws are designed to be enforced by the federal government.
So you're okay. You're okay with that? Is that each one of you?
The state cooperates.
I don't know what you read. I don't have that in front of me.
These are laws, Governor Waltz, that are on the books. It's the Immigration and Nationalities Act, and those are sections of them, as is 8 U.S.C. 1226A, 8 U.S.C. 1357A2, 8 U.S.C. 1357A4, 8 U.S.C. 1357A5.
Would the gentleman provide copies of that for the witnesses? If you're going to cite a law, you provide a copy for the witnesses typically.
Out of order, Mr.
These two governors, two of these governors are attorneys, sir. I'm not. They should know this and I shouldn't. But I'm just asking, let's just assume that these are laws. Let's just assume I'm not lying to you, that these are laws on the books right now. Are you okay with them being enforced?
You might be asking us a lot. Governors don't get to deal in hypotheticals.
Okay, so putting myself on them, these are laws. These are current laws on the books regarding immigration and naturalization.
We abide by all of those laws.
You will abide by all these laws.
We abide by federal law.
Governor Hochul, do you abide?
State law.
We follow all state and federal laws.
Governor Waltz, do you abide?
We abide by
Is
all
there
laws
any
of due process.
detainer? Is there any ICE detainer that you will reject? That you will instruct your law enforcement community or corrections facilities and enforcement community in your states to reject anyone for any reason? Legal ICE detainer under the laws that I just cited.
Every jurisdiction in Minnesota follows the law.
Every single one.
Okay, and his gentleman's time's expired, but feel free to answer the question, Governor Waltz.
Governor Pritzker?
We follow all laws, state.
But you don't. That's my point.
In Minnesota,
I want you to say you will, because we hope you will, but you actually don't, and you haven't, which is why we have this horrific mess. I yield.
Chair,
Will we allow their witness to answer? That'd be great. Thanks.
Chair recognizes Ms. Ansari from Arizona.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much, governors, for being here. I am the proud daughter of immigrants who fled an authoritarian regime, and it is especially devastating as a first-generation American to watch Donald Trump's reckless, cruel, and radical policies transform this country into an authoritarian regime. Mr. Perry just mocked us for referring to Donald Trump as a dictator, so let's run through the list. Donald Trump has, since he was inaugurated, pardoned violent January 6 insurrectionists. Dictator. Defied Supreme Court orders and attacked the judiciary. Dictator. Unilaterally abolished congressionally chartered federal agencies. Dictator. Attacked the free press. Sounds like a dictator. Kidnapped people off of the streets and deported them to foreign prisons without due process. Sounds like a dictator. Defunded higher education. Dictator. Threatened law firms and the legal profession. Dictator. This weekend, he is spending tens of millions of dollars to host a massive military parade for his birthday. Is this North Korea? On top of all of that, our twice impeached president with a 34-count convicted felony president who is not a king has deployed the active duty military in American cities, and he has spent $134 million to do so. He has their guns trained on American citizens without the consent of local authorities or the state's governor to purposefully generate chaos and provoke a reaction. Meanwhile, we have Republicans on this side of the aisle asking governors of states about bathrooms. This is the most dystopian, horrific episode of Black Mirror that I have ever seen. To our witnesses, the governors, thank you so much for being here today. I agree with my colleagues who say this is a waste of your time. You have been instrumental in fighting back against cruel and illegal Trump administration actions. I represent an extremely diverse district, one of the most diverse in the country, where more than 64 languages are spoken. I can tell you that the actions of this administration towards immigrants and immigrant communities is a blatant abuse of power, but more importantly, these steps are harming our economy and our national security. So I want to ask you a little bit about that. Governor Walz, can you share the ways in which immigrants contribute economically to your state?
Well, thank you, Congresswoman. Well, there's no aspect in Minnesota life that they're not involved, whether it's economically and the impact that they make, whether it's involved in the arts and the culture that Minnesota is very proud of, whether they're in higher professions, medical students, engineers. And Minnesota is proud to have an immigrant heritage. We set on the land of the Dakota and the Anishinaabe, and all the rest of us came through via immigration. And so the impact is widespread. It's intertwined. It may have been the Norwegians and the Swedes, then the Hmongs and the Somalis, but it's the same story, coming to America for a chance to start and then contribute to a better state.
Thank you so much, Governor Walz. And in fact, according to the American Community Survey, immigrants paid $382 billion in federal taxes and $196.3 billion in state and local taxes in 2022. Undocumented immigrants using individual tax identification numbers paid $59.4 billion in federal and $13.6 billion in state and local taxes in 2022. Governor Pritzker, you recently called immigrants the anchors of their communities. How does Donald Trump's mass deportation project harm the security of your state and instill fear throughout Illinois communities?
Thank you very much, Congresswoman. Let me be clear. The Homan raids that occurred in the first week of the Trump administration drove people into hiding. It ruined the entire area of commerce for our Mexican-American community, where people who were documented, people who are citizens actually, had to go into hiding because they know people that are undocumented. They didn't want to get picked up and having to talk about somebody that they know that's undocumented. You could see it was a ghost town. It was a ghost town. We've had people who are working, I'm talking about for decades, who've raised families, who are paying taxes in my state, who have had to flee. And these are good people. These are our neighbors. These are people that are bringing culture and art to our communities, people that should be given an opportunity, if we had good immigration laws, to apply to stay legally in this country and maybe to become U.S. citizens. Indeed, many of them have proven themselves to be maybe more worthy than some people who are already U.S. citizens. Let's give them an opportunity. So I can tell you that it's had a profoundly negative impact on my state, that Donald Trump has been attacking people who are not the problem. Let's go after people. If you're talking about terrorists, and one of the congressmen mentioned that, let's go after terrorists. Let us know who they are. We will go arrest a terrorist any day of the week, every day of the week.
Governor Hochul, if you could also answer.
I'm very proud to represent the state that has the Statue of Liberty in our harbor. Millions of migrants and immigrants have passed through, including my own grandparents. My grandfather was a migrant farm worker. They are an important part of our identity, our economy. The diversity of New York is what sets us apart and makes us so fascinating and so desirable for businesses large and small. They are so critical to our identity and our existence. And I'm really hurt. It hurts me as the leader of a state where people are living in fear in the shadows. People can't go to school. They can't worship. They can't go get health care. They can't go to their senior center. What is happening has been traumatic. It's unnecessary. We will help every day of the week to get rid of people who commit crimes that never should have come here or commit crimes here. That is my number one job. But what is happening is un-American.
Chair recognizes Mr. Timmons from South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Governor Hochul, the difference is that the millions of Americans that came through Ellis Island did so legally. I'll yield to my friend from Georgia, Ms. Green.
Thank you. Governor Hochul, are you a Democrat? Yes or no?
I'm a proud registered Democrat, yes.
Did you support Joe Biden for president? Yes or no?
Yes, I did.
Did you support the Biden administration's policies for the past 4 years?
I raised my concerns in many meetings
That's a yes
with the
or no
administrations
question.
about how the border was being enforced, and so I raised concerns.
So you just stated, I'll reclaim my time, you said you're a proud Democrat. You supported Joe Biden for president. Clearly, you supported the Biden administration's policies. Did you swear, Governor Hochul, did you swear an oath to faithfully uphold New York's Constitution and laws?
I certainly did.
In 2017, New York became a sanctuary state when Governor Cuomo signed Executive Order 170. This states, it directs that no state officers or employees, including law enforcement officers, shall disclose information to federal immigration authorities for the purpose of federal civil immigration enforcement unless required by the law. Do you support this law as governor of New York?
Yes, this pertains to civil enforcement.
So you do enforce sanctuary policies of New York?
I supporting helping law enforcement when it and ICE when it comes to.
Thank you. I reclaim my time. You support sanctuary policies that have led to the horrific murder of people, Americans. This Fox News got it wrong. It should say monster. Arrested in broad daylight rape of a 13-year-old in a New York park. This girl was raped at knife point in the park near New York Mets Stadium. That's your state, Governor Hochul. New York Post also got it wrong and called him a migrant. That's a monster. Busted in brutal beating of New York PD cops in Times Square are members of bloodthirsty Trinidad Aragua gangs. That's your state where you support your sanctuary state laws. Also, Governor Hochul, do you recognize this image?
Yes.
Where a homeless woman was burned alive by an illegal alien monster, where you uphold the laws to protect these monsters in your state, and then you force the New York citizens that pay taxes to pay for these people. This is the result of your sick and disgusting treasonous laws that you uphold as governor.
New York is not a
I
sanctuary
didn't
state for
recognize you, Ms.
criminals.
Hochul. This is my time. Do you know the name Laken Riley? Do you know the name Laken Riley?
Yes, I do.
Oh, you do. Jose Ibarra murdered 22-year-old Laken Riley. He's an illegal alien monster from Venezuela, convicted of 10 charges. He was first arrested by the Biden administration that you stated that you support. Joe Biden for president, right? Proud Democrat, Governor Hochul. First arrested at the border and released by the Democrats that you support. Then, guess what? He made it to New York because the Biden administration flew illegals all over the country, and your state was one that accepted them. He lived at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Queens, an upscale hotel that was turned into an illegal alien shelter at the taxpayers' expense. $2 million a month went to this hotel. The second time he was arrested was in the state of New York for endangering a child. But he was released quickly before ICE could even issue a detainer, because you support those laws, Governor Hochul. Then he flew, get this is shocking. He flew from the state of New York to my home state in Georgia, and you all paid for it. Because, why? Because it was reticketing, and that was the little gift that you were giving my state by sending monsters there. Costs the state of New York $5 to $10 million a day to feed and house illegals. Are you smiling at me about this?
No, I'm not.
You look like you got quite a smile on your face.
No.
Because I can tell you
Gentlelady
people,
will not.
This is my time, reclaiming my time.
I'm thinking about
attack the witness.
Don't you dare
Don't attack the
smile
witness.
about the murder of
I'm
Laken
thinking
Riley.
about her parents.
The third
Don't
time,
question how I look.
Jose
My heart is
Ibarra,
breaking for her
my
parents.
time, Governor Hochul. The third time he was arrested was in the sanctuary city of Athens, another Democrat policy. And then he went on and attempted to rape Laken Riley and murdered her. He murdered her. Let me explain something to you. This little girl right here, she would be alive today if you weren't such a treasonous governor supporting sanctuary laws in the state of New York. This little girl would be alive today, and her mother very much would like for her to be alive. This is outrageous for anybody in this country to support for non-citizens to be able to come in our country, be able to travel wherever they want, and then make taxpayers pay to house them, feed them, and then give them a plane ticket after they had been arrested in their state. That's what you did. You are responsible for the murder of this little girl, Laken Riley. And the Department of Justice should prosecute you for her murder.
Objection. Objection.
I don't care how much you object, and if
Objection.
you support it too,
Objection.
you're
All right.
responsible for her murder.
All right.
I yield
Gentlelady-
back, Mr. Chairman.
gentle-
On a point of order.
Gentlelady-
On a point of order.
Gentlelady's
On
time's
a point of
expired.
order.
State your point.
Mr. Chairman, these witnesses have been here for over 4 hours. They've all voluntarily have been engaging with our members with respect. They've all treated our members with respect.
Laken
Our
Riley
rules
is
of
dead
decorum-
forever.
Our rules
Forever.
of decorum.
Forever.
Our
They
rules
can
of
sit
decorum
there all
reclaiming
day.
my time.
Hold on.
Reclaiming
No,
my
wait,
time.
state your point.
I'm
State
trying to.
State your
Let
point.
me- let me
No,
do it without
state, it's a
interruption.
point of inquiry,
Our
not a
rules-
debate.
Our
You've had your
rules,
time.
our rules, if you would let me speak, our rules of decorum dictate that our witnesses should be treated with respect, and I ask you to enforce decorum and remind committee members to treat our witnesses with respect.
Our members are treating the witnesses with respect. This is not a courtroom. We engage with the witnesses, and I think everybody's acting within the realm. We haven't cried and screamed when you all are criticizing the current president, even though that's in the rules, not to criticize.
Law and how they look. How they look.
All right.
That's-
Maybe
Mr. Chairman.
if you win the chairmanship, if you all flip the House, you win the chairmanship, then you can do what Ms. Crockett says she's going to do and try to impeach Trump again or whatever you're all.
Mr. Chairman, is there any chance you would yield me 30 seconds to just respond that we are heartbroken what happened to her family? Lincoln Riley should be alive today. And I'm so sorry for what happened to her. I truly am what happened. But this has nothing to do with our civil enforcement of the laws. We are always cooperating with criminal investigations, always have, always will. So misstating our policies is not serving the purpose of making sure we have meaningful policies that will actually move the dime. Why aren't we working together to come up with meaningful immigration reform, secure our borders, do vetting at the border? We're simply asking.
We're going to go back. Okay, Governor, with all due respect, there was no the policy of the previous administration was an open border. It was an open border. You all supported that. Now you're saying we need
point of order.
You were saying you were no. I mean,
point
Ms.
of inquiry.
Ocasio-Cortez. I will recognize you because I like you.
Thank you.
But here,
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that.
Here's the border was open, and you all said nothing. All right. Now you said we had to pass legislation. We didn't have to pass legislation. Donald Trump secured the border on the first day. Now, there's no question you all have been obstructing and criticizing and failing to work with this administration in trying to apprehend the criminal illegals. That's what this hearing's about. It's not about theater. It's about trying to get a consensus on working with this administration to deport the criminal illegals.
We do it every day of the week, Mr.
All the
Chairman.
people who are over here illegally, to deport the criminal illegals. So
we do it every day of the week.
Out of order. I'm going to let Ms. Ocasio-Cortez state her point, and then we're going to go to Ro Khanna.
Oh, we can continue. I was just curious whose time it was, but we can proceed.
Right.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a unanimous consent request.
Okay.
I'd like to seek unanimous consent to enter into the record this tweet. Just happened. Stunning. Senator Alex Padilla from California was just forcibly removed from the news conference being held by
Without
DHS.
objection to order. You just have to state the title. Go ahead.
This is the title.
Mr. Lynch. Chair recognizes Mr. Lynch.
All right. Mr. Chairman, I have a unanimous consent request. This is from MSN. Unquestionably in violation. Judge says U.S. government didn't follow court orders on
Without objection, so ordered.
Deportation. The next one is from Rolling Stone. Trump has now deported multiple U.S. citizens, children with cancer.
Without objection to ordered.
This is New York Times. L.A. deployments of the military to cost $134
Without
million
objection
in
to
the last
ordered.
50 days. And lastly, Secretary Hegseth will not commit to obeying the court's order on Marines in Los Angeles.
Without objection to order. Chair recognizes Mr. Khanna from California.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Governor Pritzker, I've admired your moral clarity during these times. You had a speech about a month and a half ago where you said you would not bend the knee to any president of any party. I highly recommend the American people listen to that speech in its entirety. Professor Chenoweth has said at Harvard that if 3.5% of a population engage in peaceful protest, that is the single best way to bring change and stand up for constitutional values. As you know, there's the No Kings protests that are happening this weekend. I'd like you to weigh in and share your thoughts about what that could mean for the country.
Thank you, Congressman. And let me say that peaceful protest has been the avenue for so much positive social change in this country. I think about the civil rights movement as the best example of that. And it continues to be civil rights for LGBTQ people, civil rights for immigrants, et cetera. I encourage people to peacefully protest, and I have said that many times. I think, getting out your microphones and your megaphones, speaking up, speaking out, and very importantly, for people who can vote, go to the ballot box and vote. Too many people don't do that, and too many people don't stand up and speak out because they're a little bit afraid. And in this environment, I have to say, President Trump has created a situation where people are afraid. They're afraid, and they're afraid they're going to get targeted, because that is what's happening under this administration. People are getting individually targeted when they stand up and speak out.
Thank you. Governor Waltz, I thought you conducted yourself with such dignity as our vice presidential candidate. You and Gwen and many of your former colleagues are really proud of how you ran. And one of the things even people who voted for President Trump said about you is he's so decent, he's kind, he deals with people with respect. What is happening in this country that we've started to demonize immigrants? You know, when I grew up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, it was 99% white. I grew up as an Indian American of Hindu faith. I never felt demonized, felt different, made to feel like I didn't belong. Something is going on where we've created a permission structure for that. How do we model the kind of decency that you've exhibited so that we become a cohesive community like this country has always been?
Well, Congressman, thank you for the kind words. I think the people of this country expect us to do that. Look, I think we could all agree these horrific situations that happened, that have been highlighted in here, we all hate that, but we also lift up the great success stories. And I will just tell you, Congressman, on Tuesday night at 2 a.m., Minnesota has the most closely divided legislature in the country, 101 to 100. And we passed bipartisan legislation that kept us with a balanced budget, a AAA bond rating. We invested in our schools, we invested in our roads, and we did it with civility. We did it with an eye to the future, and we did it, Republicans and Democrats, with the idea that we are a nation of immigrants, and people simply want to make sure that if the laws are being asked to be followed, people are given due process. So I have to tell you, we have a model. It's our Constitution. We have a model on how to do this, and we've done it before. And I would just encourage all of us to be part of the solution rather than just continue to demonize each other.
Thank you, Governor. Governor Hochul, I appreciate your speaking out about the Marines being sent into my state. I was horrified. There's just footage today of Senator Padilla being shoved out. I don't know if people have seen it, but he went to ask Secretary Noem a question, and the police literally grabbed the senator and shoved him out of the room. You know, the Marines, I want to get back to the Marines, though. I mean, the fact is that we have a principle called federalism in this country. No one in Los Angeles asked for the Marines. No one in California asked for the Marines. I mean, do people's voices not matter of what we want locally and in a state way? Tell me how you would feel if Marines were sent into your state or your senators were taken by the fists and pushed out of rooms. What is going on in this country?
Thank you for the question. It's disturbing at so many levels. I mean, I served as a member of the Armed Services Committee when I served in this body years ago. And to think that the Marines are being deployed against fellow citizens, fellow residents, is unprecedented. Now, we have different levels of law enforcement to manage crowds. That's all this is a crowd. When it gets out of control, when it's violent, there must be consequences. And that's what the police are trained to do, whether they're LAPD or what we have in New York is one of the highest trained organization of top law enforcement, people who put their lives on the line every day, who know how to deal with crowds and protests and if they devolve into riots. But to go to the extreme of not just the National Guard, which usurps the governor's authority, the governors are the commanders-in-chief of the National Guard, but to go all the way to the U.S. military as an indication that a mayor and a governor can't handle what's happening in their own streets is overkill at a level that is just unconscionable. And I hope we do not see this in other cities. We need to just calm the situation down, get rid of the criminals, we'll work together every day, and leave law-abiding individuals alone.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Mr. Burchett from Tennessee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Governor Waltz, you said that as long as you are governor, immigrants will be welcome in Minnesota. Do you find a difference between an immigrant and an illegal immigrant?
A difference, their status?
Is there a difference? Legal status or otherwise?
Well, the legal status is different, but in Minnesota we have a long tradition of welcoming.
Okay. ICE in St. Paul arrested a criminal illegal alien who had been convicted for possession of child pornography on a work computer. Do you still stand by your statement that ICE agents are the modern-day Gestapo?
ICE agents need to do a job, but they need to do it within the realm of due process and the law, wearing masks, no notice of who they are, no notice of the vans, and picking people up off the streets without that due process. I stand that is wrong and a road towards authoritarianism. I certainly stand by that.
You know, I have one rule. I have a couple rules in my office, but one of them is never compare anything dealing with the Holocaust except for the Holocaust. I think that it desensitizes people about what really went on in Nazi Germany by making any comparisons there. Does Minnesota receive federal tax dollars for any programs that assist illegal immigrants?
Minnesota's federal tax dollars are appropriated by you in Congress, and then we use state dollars under our laws.
During the Biden administration, nearly $1.5 billion was sent to sanctuary states to pay for their illegal immigration policies, housing, health care. Governor Hochul, are crimes committed by illegal aliens preventable, in your opinion?
Our law enforcement is highly trained in how to identify prospective perpetrators, but certainly we try to prevent crimes, and we also work to resolve them and make sure that if there's a crime committed, that people find their time in court and are incarcerated. That's how it's always worked.
By definition, illegal aliens are unlawfully present in the United States. They should not be here in the first place to commit crimes. Don't you agree with that?
It depends on the circumstances of coming over. I mean, there's civil violations. There's also criminals. So it's the federal government's determination on the status of an individual. But
I mean, if they're not here, the crime's not going to be committed.
I think if there was not,
they're not going to be here, ma'am, the crime is not going to be committed.
If there was no one in our country, no crimes would be committed. I suppose you could say the same thing.
A young man in my district whose family is very close to me lost their son to an illegal alien, and I can guarantee you if that illegal alien, if we'd followed the laws of the land and there had been some enforcement, that young man would be here today. Well, let me ask you this. Why did your state issue say that you are welcome with open arms in reference to illegal aliens? That was a direct quote attributed to you, ma'am.
It's a 400-year history we have in the state of New York of welcoming all. I don't know why we would change that now.
Okay, Governor Pritzker, you mentioned in your opening statement that criminals have no place in our country, but Cook County released numerous criminal migrants last year, including one that was charged with raping a minor. Why would you release a criminal rapist back into your community?
Thank you, Congressman. First of all, we don't need to release somebody if ICE or another law enforcement authority shows up with a judicial warrant. Then that's just the fact. And if somebody gets released, it's usually because they've had due process and determined not to be eligible to be held. That's
okay. But do you know what happened after that individual was released?
I don't. But again, a judicial warrant, if appropriate.
I'll tell you, 17 days later, he was charged with a homicide. And in Cook County, also released a migrant charged with domestic violence in August of 2024. Do you know what this individual was charged with 1 month later?
No, sir, I'm not sure what.
Aggravated criminal sexual assault and abuse of minor. And as
awful.
governor, have you done anything to ensure local and county governments aren't releasing illegal immigrants charged with sexual or violent crimes?
As a matter of fact, first of all, we chase down criminals every single day. We put them in jail. We try them, put them through due process. They get convicted. They get put into our correction system. We do that every single day. You're implying that we're not. We are. In fact, our law enforcement are some of the best in the country. They do their job.
Well, if these laws were enforced, then I would assume these people wouldn't be back out on the streets so freely. How many programs does Illinois have that explicitly supports illegal immigrants?
Sir, we've created programs to deal with not illegal. I mean, we have one program that's related to undocumented people who are.
I'm out of time.
They're
but
the most vulnerable.
The answer is at least four. Health benefits for immigrants, HBIS, health benefits for immigrants. adults, HBI, Retention of Illinois Students, and Equity, RISE is the acronym for that act, and the Illinois Dream Fund. And I'm sorry I'm out of time, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Chair, that's Mr. Min.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to finish the title of the article that I was trying to read into unanimous consent.
Okay.
Stunning. Senator Alex Padilla, California, was just forcefully removed from the news conference being held by DHS Kristi Noem in Westwood. Senator attempted to interrupt
That's the
Noem.
title?
He was handcuffed in the hallway. Yes. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, he rushed the podium. He was being disruptive, and that is not conducive to
A senator
member
was
of elected
forcefully
body.
shoved
Thank you,
to the
Mr.
ground and arrested.
All right, order. Chair recognizes Mr. Min from California.
I just want to follow up my Republican colleague's comments since he's talking so much about sexual assault and note that our current president was found civilly liable for sexual assault. I also want to note that Elon Musk, and for the record, just want to note that Elon Musk, who was once part of this administration, not so long ago, accused the president of being part of the Epstein files. So all of great interest and something perhaps we should look into some oversight on. But governors, I want to ask you a few questions. Please raise your hand if your state has any laws or policies that prevent ICE from enforcing federal immigration laws. Note for the record that no one has their hand up. Governors, please raise your hand if you're aware of any laws or policies that prevent federal authorities from enforcing immigration laws in any city or state in the United States. Again, no hands are up, and that's because there's no such thing as sanctuary from federal laws anywhere in this country. What is really at stake here is whether state resources, including National Guard troops, should be used for Donald Trump's immigration policies, or whether National Guardsmen should be used primarily for responding to state emergencies, supporting state law enforcement priorities, or whether they should be conscripted to support ICE. This is really a question about states' rights, and it's being starkly illustrated right now with what's happening in Los Angeles, just up the way from my district in Orange County, where the Trump administration has claimed authority to deploy 4,000 troops from the California National Guard. I also want to note that the existence of the National Guard is rooted in the Second Amendment to the Constitution. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The first part of that amendment, the part my Republican colleagues always forget to quote whenever they cite the Second Amendment, is the key part of it. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, with state being capitalized so that we know we're talking about the states in the United States of America. The Second Amendment guarantees the state the right to keep and maintain a well-regulated militia, which is the basis for the National Guard. So, Governors, I want to just try to set the record straight because I think it's not clear that everyone fully understands what a National Guard unit is, when and how they can and should be called up, and what activities they're restricted from engaging in. I have limited time, so I'm just going to ask you to keep your answers brief so we can really unwrap how deeply concerning President Trump's actions are. Governor Walz, in a sentence or two, what does the Minnesota National Guard do, and how does it serve the people in the state of Minnesota?
Has a dual role. I know this personally from 24 years. You can be deployed federally under Title 10 with the President's authority or Title 32. In Minnesota, we have used them everything from flood and tornadoes. We use them to help during the COVID pandemic, and they serve overseas when called upon.
But typically they report to the state governor per Title 32 of the U.S. Code, correct?
That's correct.
And in times of crisis, a governor can activate the state's National Guard units to respond and assist. As you noted, under Title 10, the President sometimes has authority to deploy them. Governor Pritzker, in a few words, under what circumstances can or should the President federalize a state's National Guard?
Well, the President of the United States, and I've been in office 6.5 years, has in fact deployed under Title 10 our National Guard to foreign lands. We have a terrific encampment of National Guard, Illinois National Guard in Poland. We have the largest Polish-American population in the country, and very proudly our National Guard serve all over the world, in fact, as part of our military to protect our nation.
And so Title 10's Section 12406 allows the President to deploy National Guard troops when the United States is being invaded, when there is a rebellion, or when the President is unable with regular forces to execute the laws of the United States. Do you believe that the protests in Los Angeles or the ICE raids qualify for any of these particular provisions?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. And you're aware that Governor Newsom did not make any request to President Trump to federalize the California National Guard?
He did not. In fact, he rejected it.
And so this is illegal. It does not comply with the bases for deployment. It was done against the express wishes of Governor Newsom. Now, I want to highlight a key point that my Republican colleagues across the aisle should keep in mind regarding the federalization process of National Guard units. Even under Title 10, these troops may not be used for law enforcement purposes. And what we are seeing right now is a total violation of that. We are seeing them used to aid ICE raids. And I just want to note that ICE is acting largely as a civil organization at this point in time. Governor Hochul, correct or incorrect, being undocumented in the U.S. is a civil violation, not a criminal offense. Yes or no, please?
I believe most cases are civil. In some cases, the federal government can determine that it's a
criminal violation, right? And correct or incorrect, deploying U.S. Marines to support ICE raids constitutes a law enforcement purpose and non-national security purpose.
It feels to have crossed the line, given that we have highly trained local law enforcement who are more than capable of handling those situations.
Thank you. And I'll just close with this. There's no rebellion. There's no invasion. Law enforcement has not collapsed. There's no national emergency. What is happening right now is not just unprecedented. It is illegal, and it is very alarming to those of us who care about democracy and the rule of that law. And with that, I yield back. But with unanimous consent, I would ask to introduce this article into the record. Marines to join National Guard troops protecting ICE agents.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you.
Unanimous consent.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record this picture of Senator Padilla being knuckled and looks like he's being arrested and restrained by three police officers. I can't understand.
We'll enter the picture in without objection to order. Chair recognizes Ms. Mace from South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome to the unofficial 2028 Democrat presidential primary right here on stage at the Oversight Committee. Governor Newsom must be seething. The three of you beat him to the stage, but he's a little busy right now defending illegals and defending Antifa, torching what is left of Los Angeles. Governor Walz knows the playbook. In 2020, he rolled out the red carpet for anarchists while Minnesotans watched their neighborhoods burn. You've turned your states into sanctuaries for illegals. You've done more to shield MS-13 than to protect the single mom working 2 jobs in Chicago, Queens, or Minneapolis. And you've worked harder against ICE than with them. So Governor Walz, and boy, does that feel nice to say the word governor, my first question is for you. Did you know the Nazis killed 6 million Jews during the Holocaust? It's a yes or no question. Did you know the Nazis killed 6 million Jews during the Holocaust?
Pushing my button to
Okay.
answer. Yes, I believe that's historic.
Okay, would you agree the Holocaust is the most horrific atrocity in human history? Yes or no?
I think the Holocaust ranks amongst them, yes.
Did you know the Nazi Gestapo imprisoned, tortured, and murdered Jews by the hundreds of thousands and committed genocide against the Jews? Did you know that?
I do know they operated as secret.
Did you know ICE has done none of that? Yes or no?
Operated as a secret police force?
No, that's not the question. Did you know that ICE has not committed genocide against anyone?
Yes, I do know that.
Okay. Do you apologize for your disgusting comparison of ICE to the Gestapo, who killed hundreds of thousands of Jews during the Holocaust?
As a history teacher?
Yes or no is the question.
A historical comparison.
You're a governor. You understand what the question is. It's yes or no. Will you apologize for what you said about ICE, comparing them to
ICE to identify who they are when they operate, to not use unmarked.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, this governor, or honorable, can't answer the question. Do you believe the Nuremberg trials were a good exercise in holding the Nazis accountable? Yes or no?
I think due process.
Okay, so are you calling for ICE agents to be brought to a tribunal under the threat of death by comparing them to the Gestapo?
Everyone is afforded due process.
What don't you understand about yes or no? Like, what can't you comprehend about yes or no questions? Do you still want to abolish ICE? Do you still want to abolish ICE? Yes or no?
I said I wanted to abolish ICE.
Didn't you march in a rally calling for ICE's abolishment?
Not that I can recall, Congressman.
Well, according to widespread media reports, you did.
And the media is always correct.
How do you rate Kamala Harris's job as border czar? I want a number between 1 and 10. How was she as border czar?
I wouldn't have a way to measure that. I was not in the administration.
Weren't you her running mate for vice president?
As in the campaign.
And you can't rate her role as border czar on a scale of 1 to 10. Was she great at 10 or was she a 1? Terrible.
I think her proposal that she put forward to make sure we had the bipartisan immigration.
It wasn't bipartisan. Did you ever personally speak with Kamala about Joe Biden's cognitive collapse?
Not that I can recall, Congressman.
Not as her running mate for vice president. You never once talked to her about the president and why she was nominated instead of him.
No, not that I can recall.
What kind of operation were you guys running over there?
I was more concerned with Donald Trump's cognitive.
Thank God he's
he's
president and J.D. Vance is vice president and not you. Have you ever served in a combat zone, Governor?
I have not, Congresswoman.
Okay. Are you still friends with school shooters?
I have never been a friend with a school shooter.
Didn't you say you were friends with school shooters on the debate stage?
Oh, Congresswoman.
Yeah.
I
Is
think that's very
bullying
evident.
is
As
bullying
a teacher and a parent.
is my mom was a teacher. I'm a high school dropout. We can talk about that. Is bullying okay?
Is bullying okay as a teacher?
Is bullying okay? Yes or no? Is it okay to bully somebody?
I think
yes
there's
or
a
no?
time to push back at a bully. So yes, I do think there's a time.
So you think it's okay to bully others?
I think it's okay to bully the bully at times.
Well, you're showing that the Democrat Party is the party of violence. Were you at Tiananmen Square?
Have I been to Tiananmen Square? I have.
Were you at Tiananmen Square?
I have been at Tiananmen Square.
When were you there?
Oh, as I recall, January of 1990.
Okay. What is a woman? What is a woman is the question.
I'm not sure I understand the question here.
Well, that.
What
okay.
do you want me to say? This is.
I want you to say that a woman like me is an adult human female, that men can't become women. You guys are the party of violence, and you're the party erasing women. You don't respect us. You're a bigot. You're a misogynist. You're a sexist. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Congresswoman.
Good lady, yield
Mr.
back.
Chairman,
She
I will ask
recognizes
unanimous
Mr.
consent.
Ocasio-Cortez from New York.
All right, well, that was some kind of bingo going on over there. I don't know what's going on. Anyways.
Oh, I know what's going on.
Thank you to the witnesses for coming here today. I apologize for the treatment that the four of you have been subjected to. And Governor Waltz, I just have to say, I know you're getting a lot of grief from the majority here, but you know, we are talking about individuals who have cheered on an individual who issued a Nazi salute from behind the presidential seal of the United States of America, who have cheered on the pardoning of individuals who attacked the United States Capitol and flew a Nazi flag and the flag of the Confederacy, traitors to the United States, sworn enemies of the United States of America, through the capital of this nation. And now they want to act offended because someone has the courage to say, if it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, maybe it's a duck. So I want to thank you for not wavering to their bullying, which is unconscionable and sad to see. So I just wanted to let you know that, Governor. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
To the three of you, Governor Walz, Governor Pritzker, and Governor Hochul, you three have each sworn an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America, correct? I'll start with you.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I have.
And I imagine that also includes the Fourth and Fifth Amendment protections for due process and the rule of law.
It does.
Sure does.
Yes.
And that means protecting your people in your states, U.S. citizens and every individual, because that is what makes America great, that we are a land of the free and of rule of law, to protect them from infringements of their civil liberties, correct? Now, what we are seeing is a pattern where ICE is breaking the law. We have the detention of a U.S. citizen who has been detained by immigration officials. We have ICE here that has also blamed and arrested U.S. citizens for being simply suspected of being an immigrant largely because of their appearance. In January, a Chicago-based U.S.-born citizen, Julio Noriega, was arrested by ICE and held in custody for over 10 hours. In April, a Florida Highway Patrol officer pulled over Juan Carlos Lopez Gomez, a United States-born citizen, and arrested him on suspicion of being in the country illegally. He had his real ID, his Social Security card, his mother presented his birth certificate, and they still didn't let him go. In May, U.S. citizen Leonardo Garcia Venegas was filming an ICE raid. He was arrested by ICE. In May, a veteran and U.S. citizen who is Puerto Rican, was detained during an ICE raid at his workplace in New York City. That's called a paper bag test. And your job, Governor Hochul, is to protect people from that kind of infringement, correct?
Yes.
Because all of us must adhere to the law, and no one is above it. So if a U.S. citizen tries to break the law, or if an ICE officer tries to break the law, your job is to uphold the law, correct?
We absolutely uphold the laws of the United States Constitution and the Constitution of the state of New York.
And sanctuary states are about U.S. citizens as well, having sanctuary against the attacks on our constitutional rights from illegal search and seizure. There is nothing preventing ICE from issuing a warrant and you having complete compliance with their request. Correct, Governor Hochul?
We comply in cases where there's been criminal activity alleged. Yes, we always do. But we're not involved in civil immigration enforcement because our state police that I control have to deal with other crimes that they're solving.
And apologies, I just have 10 seconds left. But when they say illegal versus legal immigration, they are trying to end legal status in the United States as well. Correct, Governor Pritzker, with the end of TPS and making people undocumented by removing legal status, ending legal status, and then having the audacity to call them illegal when they were here documented, correct?
Taking students' visas away from people, taking their legal right to be in the United States away from them when they've been granted maybe years earlier to stay.
So I don't want to hear about how this is about illegal versus legal immigration. They are attacking legal status and removing legal status. The Republican majority is anti-legal immigration in the United States. And I want to make that very clear, and I yield back.
Chair now recognizes
Mr. Chair, unanimous consent request.
Mr. Frost.
Unanimous consent request into the record a NBC article, Senator Alex Padilla removed from news conference with Homeland Security Secretary Noem.
All right, without objection to order.
I have another one, the Hill article, Padilla forcibly removed from Noem press conference.
Without objection to order.
And I have a third one, Axios, Democratic Senator forcibly removed from DHS press conference.
Without objection to order.
Mr. Chair, also, we were just talking about this. I want to know if you can commit to working with us so we can subpoena.
You're out of order. Chair recognizes
I have
Ms.
a point
Green.
I have a point of order.
No.
I have a point of order.
State your point.
We need to subpoena.
That's not
Secretary
a point of order.
Noem.
Chair recognizes
We
Ms.
just talked
Green.
about this
That's
earlier.
not a point.
We talked
Thank
about
you, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Reclaiming my time. Reclaiming my time.
To the ground.
Reclaiming my time.
And handcuffed in his own damn
Oh, Democrats can't follow the rules. Can't follow the law. Can't follow the rules. Can't follow the law.
We need to subpoena Kristi Noem. It's
Chair
her
recognizes
staff,
Ms. Green.
DHS federal
There's a privilege of the majority, and that means we're in charge, not your side,
about this
because you
governors.
lost the
All right,
election.
Ms. Green, we're going to start the
because
clock.
you supported the invasion of our country.
All right.
It's my time.
Will you commit on the record
Stop
to
the
work
clock.
My
on
time.
subpoena
Thank you,
Kristi
Mr.
Noem?
Chairman. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
You're out of order. Chair recognizes
Will
Ms.
you
Green.
commit on the record
you.
to subpoenaing Kristi Noem because a U.S. senator was just thrown to the ground and detained in his own
Democrats
detained-
can't follow the rules.
out of
Can't
order.
follow the law.
Will you
Can't
commit-
follow the
Shut
rules.
up. Just shut
Will you-
up.
No, you don't. No,
Shut
you're
up.
not going to tell me to shut up.
Let's. How do you get him in order? You're running for this.
Not like that.
He has been out of order 6 times. He's trying to get on MSNBC. You probably knocked.
I get it.
Somebody off
I don't have any problem
MSNBC
getting
to
on
get on there.
MSNBC. That's
Ms.
not
I
what
Green.
it's
think
about.
he's been
He's
arrested as a
recognized.
former
Yeah, well,
Antifa
okay,
member,
here.
right?
Back
Antifa.
to order, Ms. Green. Go.
But he's a
Go.
former Antifa
All right, Ms.
member,
Green.
Mr.
You're
Chairman.
recognized. You got
no
it.
surprise.
Who's a former
Sure.
Antifa member? Me?
Yeah, you.
I asked that these words be taken down.
No, Ms. Green.
Thank you.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
There's a motion.
Governor
Ms.
Hochul,
Green is recognized.
Governor
I asked that
Hochul,
these
you
words be
stated
taken down.
that you're a proud Democrat, proud registered
All right,
Democrat.
we got to suspend. There's been a parliamentary move. They said they weren't going to do that. What's the?
Just ask her to strike what she said.
Okay. Suspend for 2 minutes. And while we're suspending, we have votes in about 7 minutes. We're going to try to get 3 more questioners in, then we'll break for, I think there are 4 votes, and we'll come back right after the last vote. We don't have that many more questioners, so.
Let's see if that's the whole thing then. So many people across our country.
So you can say, I move to revise my remarks. Mr. Frost was arrested at a rally for moving to illegals votes, but not member of Antifa or something like that. If that works.
We were called what do I want to do?
By the ranking member. Move to revise your remarks and say, Mr. Frost was arrested at a rally, but not as a member of Antifa.
Okay. Affiliated permitted demonstration. Mr. Chairman, I move to revise my remarks. Congressman Frost was arrested in 2021 at a voting rights rally.
Okay. Without objection?
Proudly.
All right. Chair recognizes Ms. Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Governor Hochul, you stated that you're a proud registered Democrat.
Yes, I did. Is that illegal now, too, in your country?
Governor Hochul, this is not a laughing matter. You also stated that you swore an oath to uphold the laws of New York. And one of the laws that you have upheld and proudly kept in place is the executive order signed by former Governor Andrew Cuomo that directs that no state officers or employees, including law enforcement officers, shall disclose information to federal immigration authorities for the purpose of federal civil immigration enforcement unless required by law. And because of your state's policies of paying for flights of illegal aliens, we ended up with Jose Ibarra in our state of Georgia. And, you know, I'm a mother of 3 children, and 2 out of my 3, I have 2 daughters. And you're a mother, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Yes, and I think you've got 2 children, you have 1 daughter, is that right?
That is correct.
And so you and I are both mothers, and there's one mother that I wish could be here today and could talk to you instead of me, and that's Allison Phillips. That's Laken Riley's mother. And we talked about Laken a few minutes ago, and you know, there's a really special bond between mothers and daughters. and we speak with our daughters daily. We speak with our daughters all day long. We speak with our daughters about every single thing that's happening in our lives and every single thing that's happening in their lives. And I want you to know the last time that Laken Riley and her mother, Allison Phillips, tried to talk to each other, and that happened to be in the morning when Laken was getting ready to go out and go for her morning jog. And on the morning of her murder, at 8:55 a.m., Riley texted her mother and said, "Good morning, about to go for a run, if you're free to talk." And I can tell you that's something I do with my girls, and they text me, and I'm sure you and your daughter text each other as well. But she didn't get her mother, and then Riley called her mother just a few minutes later at 9:03 a.m. as she was starting to listen to music, but she didn't get her mom on the phone. And the trail cam actually captured her going out for her run at 9:05 a.m. At 9:11, Laken called 911. This was just not but a few minutes after she had tried to call her mother. And then at 9:24, Laken received a call from her mother, but it went unanswered. And at 9:28, Laken's heart stopped. And according to the smartwatch, the data of her smartwatch, Laken fought for her life for 17 minutes. 17 minutes. 17 minutes, this little girl fought for her life as she was being beat in the head by this monster, as she was being strangled by this monster, as she was being almost raped by this monster and drug off into the woods. She fought for her life for 17 minutes, and her mom tried to call during that time. And it was only a few minutes after she had tried to call her mother. And I think as mothers, not politicians, this is something that we should easily share with Allison Phillips. So when we are talking about the laws in place and the policies that we uphold as elected leaders in this country, do you know who we should be thinking about? We should be thinking about our daughters. And the fact that, look, everybody can fight all day long, Democrat, Republican. I got to tell you, though, it's so much bullshit when it comes down to the fact that this little girl fought for 17 minutes of the end of her 22-year-old life. The end of her 22-year-old life. And Governor Hochul, for the love of God, as you are a proud, registered Democrat, I don't know how on earth you can uphold laws that protect and give aid and comfort to monsters, especially one that was arrested in your state and let go because of your policies in your state. And I can't comprehend it, Mr. Chairman. Just one more second. Laken Riley and her mother deserve to have one last chat. Like, you know what? Me and you get to have chats with our daughters. Mr. Chairman, I yield.
Yield back. They've called votes. We're going to try to get two more questions in. I'll recognize Mr. Davis from Illinois and then Ms. Luna.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I thank you and the ranking member for letting me wave on to this hearing. I want to thank all of the witnesses, all of the governors who've been here and who've been here all day. But I also want to thank you, Governor Pritzker, for the outstanding leadership you have provided to the state of Illinois. Our state is characterized as being progressive and humane. Could you share why we think that's important, you as governor and I as a citizen resident?
Well, we had to do a lot of reform of our state government in order to get there, but it's important to me that we provide health care, that we provide education for all of our people, that we have a policies and a government that take care of particularly those who are most vulnerable in our society, including working families, including the middle class. And it's very important to me that we be known for that. We are a state that is, frankly, cares a great deal about our fellow man. We are a state that is humanitarian in so many ways, and that stands up for the law. And so I'm very proud of our state. We have the greatest state in the country, the land of Lincoln, and we say that proudly because we know that Lincoln would be a Democrat today if he were alive. I'm a big believer in taking his values and promoting those, as well as the values now of today's Illinois, and promoting those. And we've done that and frankly succeeded in so many ways to lift people up. Thank you.
Well, thank you. We're proud of you and your leadership, and I yield back, Mr.
Will the gentleman yield?
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes Ms. Luna
Mr.
from
Chairman,
Florida.
point of inquiry, did you skip me in the order on purpose? Just curious.
It must have been an oversight, Mr. Moskowitz.
Well, this is the
Chair
Oversight
recognizes
Committee,
Ms.
which
Luna.
has lots of oversight.
Gentlemen, please.
Chair recognizes Ms. Luna.
Just, suppressing free speech.
Ms. Luna.
Thank you very
You're
much, Chairman. First and foremost, I would like to take this opportunity to educate the American people on what's really happening right now with these riots. So I see right now there's a lot of back and forth and finger pointing, but the fact is that there is a financial tie to these riots, tied to immigration, that actually leads right back to the Communist Chinese Party. Straight up, the LA riots have been organized by an organization dubbed PSL, the Party for Socialism and Liberation, funded by billionaire Chinese activist Neville Singham, who spends parts of his year by living in Shanghai. In addition to that, although he is not a registered foreign agent, he accepts a lot of money from the CCP and then turns around and funnels it right into some of these violent protests that we're seeing. But it doesn't just stop there. This is not the only organized protest that's using brown people and immigrants as a ruse to push their communist and Marxist agenda. Mr. Waltz, thank you for coming in today to testify, or Mr. Walls. Real quick, is it true, yes or no, that you are speaking at the June 14th Twin Cities No King rally?
I can't confirm that right now. That
Okay.
could be true.
Okay. Just so you know, they're advertising you speaking there.
Okay.
The graphic's actually on X right now. I'd be happy to provide it for you, so I'll take that as probably speaking. Is it true also, I know on your campaign, that you had admitted to visiting China anywhere from 15 to 30 times, sir? Yes or no, please?
I did live in China. And
No, visiting, sir, in addition to living there and in addition
Yes,
to having, okay.
that's correct.
All right. Also, too, I'd like to note that during your time in Congress that you filed for a $5 million earmark that actually was secured. $2 million of it went to the Harmel Institute that actually collaborated with the Wuhan Institute. Also, the Department of Homeland Security, sir, just to you, so that you're tracking, actually had an internal memo that was released that stated that the government of China considered you a prime target for influence operations. I'm letting you know that now because I do believe that you should be made aware of, if you are not already, that you are working with and going to be speaking at an organization and rally that not is just funded by Christy Walton, the heiress of Walmart, but also has ties to the Chinese Progressive Association, largely funding it, that actually brags on their website that they are pro-Maoist. Also, too, funded by the National Endowment for Democracy. I know there's a lot of people on this committee that don't like billionaires interfering in politics, but say nothing when George Soros gets over $260 million from USAID through the last administration that's then funneled into some of these nonprofits and organizations. So I guess my question for you guys is, now that I've made you aware that these riots are not about illegals and they're not about immigrants, if they did, they would have been protesting under Barack Obama, who's also dubbed the deporter-in-chief. And frankly, I think many of you would say that Barack Obama was a good president. Are you going to say that Barack Obama wasn't a good president? Yes or no, Governor Waltz? Do you think he was a good president?
Do I think Barack Obama was
Correct.
the president? I think he did a good job.
Okay, how about you, Governor Pritzker?
I think he did a good job. Yes.
Hochul?
Hochul, and yes, he did do a good job.
Okay, next. Perryman?
I think President Obama did a good job.
So then you would understand that Barack Obama had the very same policies for the most part on immigration that Republicans are parroting today, and yet you guys are sitting here saying that we're Gestapo. And what I would tell you is that what happens with open borders is that the real people that are coming here, the ones that are exploited, actually it hurts people on both sides, not just Americans but the illegals. Some of you had said here to the actual committee that you are doing what you can to assist these people, but what I would say is that your policies aren't actually done from a place of understanding and sympathy. I would say that it's actually doing the exact opposite. And when you use brown people, just like they use black people with BLM and Marxists during BLM to usher that in, when you use brown people and you put Mexican flags with them saying that you stand up for illegal immigrants, but you follow the money and it's going back to the Communist Party, what you're essentially doing is using your platform as elected officials, the trust that the American people have put in you, essentially to usher in communism. You're not actually fighting for American values. Don't roll your eyes because it's a serious topic and that's where the money's coming from. So now I'm informing you, so now you guys can make your decisions, but please be informed, sir, Mr. Walz, that if you truly do uphold the American ideologies and perspectives on the Constitution, you should not be speaking at that rally. I've given you the correct information, and as of right now, I've authorized a letter to be sent to my office to the President of the United States to rescind millions of dollars in funding that we know are going to the No Kings protests that were authorized and basically given under the last administration. That is what Congress is supposed to do, not point fingers, not blame people, but actually ensure that the American people are protected and not fighting for foreign interests, foreign governments, and also the communist
Will the gentlelady yield for a question?
No.
You don't want to tell us what your evidence is of all this connections?
Actually, no, I will yield.
You know,
to that.
I appreciate
Mr. Goldman, you'll get 5 minutes.
Take your word for it. But you'll appreciate we might want actual evidence.
I would be happy to provide that, and I'd also be happy to inform Chairman that actually we have a letter of which you can sign on to. I know you like to sign on to letters with us, especially on the Epstein stuff. But we actually have a letter going out to Neville Singham on Friday, and it's actually signed by every single member of Oversight. I'd like to extend that to you because that letter is calling him to testify, and it's also calling for his financial transactions. And do you agree, sir, that we should not be accepting money from the Communist Chinese Party? I think anyone on this platform would agree that that should not be accepted, correct?
I would like for you to actually present evidence rather than just, quote, inform the witnesses, and now that they're informed, they should assume
I
what
don't
you
disrespect
say is
you. I'm
true
going to answer your question. We are having a hearing on it where we can present all the evidence.
Order.
No, but let's have this dialogue.
Yeah, go ahead. You're recognized, Ms. Luna.
We are going to be having a hearing, and you can gavel on to the hearing. I'd appreciate you to do it because the fact is that the Democrat Party, remember,
is it going to be as good as the Biden impeachment hearing?
Mr. Goldman, you'll have 5 minutes in a moment.
Let's focus real quick.
Well, Mr. Chairman, she's out of time. I just think you're trying not to let me talk.
Guys, if you guys want to talk about it, I'll answer the question. But Mr. Singham is also funding Code Pink through his wife.
You know, it's my turn.
Can we ask Elon to divest from China while we're at it?
The lady's time's expired. The lady's time's expired.
We'll be having the hearing. Y'all are invited. We might have you guys
All right.
back.
Thank you. Before we go to votes, which have been called, I'm going to recognize Mr. Donalds for unanimous consent.
Mr. Chairman, I want to submit a letter into the record from Congressman Richie Torres to Governor Hochul, speaking specifically about that the Penn Station Center is actually being led by MTA, where the chairman is actually appointed by the governor of New York, and the cost overruns are $7 billion.
Without objection, so ordered. And again, the witnesses, I apologize. The votes were supposed to be at 4 o'clock when we scheduled this. They've been moved to 3. We have 4 or 5 votes. We'll come back here as soon as the votes are the last vote. So pursuant to the previous order, the committee will recess for floor votes. The committee will return 5 minutes after the last vote. There are only 7 or 8 more questioners, so the committee stands in recess.